6 through 8 is a story of the temple. And I want to very quickly just pick it up and sort of give you that the temple, 1 Kings 6, is broken into these 3 parts. Next to 1 to 10, 6, 1 to 10, details on temple. It's about framing and structure. And if you thought 4 was pedantic, you will absolutely feel like this is. It is stuff about a building. It sounds like a building inspection, okay? And it will tell you the size of the porch, and it will tell you the size of the beams, and it will tell you what they're made out of, and you will go, why? Why do I need to know this? There is a reason. The detail on the framing and structure. Let me very quickly give you the details on the framing and structure. Verse 1, simple word, timing. It was about the 480th year from the sons of Israel came out of the land of Egypt. Why is this verse important? You have been to this verse before. 1 Kings 6:1 is one of those ones, put a box around it, make a star next to it. This is the way we date what happened in the Hebrew Scriptures. How do I know when the Exodus occurred? Because right here it says it was 480 years after the Exodus that the temple was built. Since I know the temple was built in 968 and I have archaeology for the temple, I can go plus 480 years and get to 1446. That's how I know when the Exodus occurred. So this verse hangs timing for the Hebrew Scriptures, okay? Second, in verse 2 is the size of the temple, the footprint size. It was 60 cubits. What's a cubit? Just do that. That's a cubit, okay? 60 cubits, and its width was 20 cubits. So basically, if you go like it's about 1.5 feet, okay, if you do that times 1.5, you'll come up with the right number of feet. So if you have 60 cubits, think 90 feet, okay? And by the way, in the tabernacle, the length was 45. They doubled the length, okay? But also we have, its width was 20 cubits. In the tabernacle, the width was 15 feet. Now they went to 30 feet. So you have a 30 by 90 temple structure. According to modern buildings, have you seen a 30 by 90? You live in something bigger than a 30 by 90, okay? This isn't impressive unless you're a people that came out of the desert and nobody builds a second floor that's out of masonry. It's always out of wood and rickety. This looks impressive in their time, but watch what they did. They doubled the length, they doubled the width, but the height was 30 cubits. That's 3 times the tabernacle. How come they went double on the width and double on the length, but 3 times on the height? Why did they build it so high? There's a practical reason. In the tabernacle, how many menorah, what did they have for light? A menorah. How many did they have? 1. In this, they're going to have 8. The menorah is a lampstand. You light it. Make the ceiling higher. Okay? There's a practical reason. They didn't want to burn the place down, so they made it 3 times higher. That's all. Okay, without getting too heavy into the design, look at verses 3 and 4. The design of it tells you that there was a porch, a nave, it tells you the depth, and it tells you that there were windows and artistic frames. So it tells you what the building was like in terms of design. So I've got timing in 1, size in 2, 3 and 4 is design. Verses 5 and 6, side chambers. The problem with building something that was that high in that time is it would fall over. So, have any of you ever seen a picture and or been to Paris and seen Notre Dame? Have you seen a picture of Notre Dame? On the outside, the buttresses hold it up. If you don't have buttresses, the next thing you could do is build buildings alongside of it, and that'll hold it up. So there's a porch on either side or a side building on either side, and the reason for it is Solomon's temple would actually look like this, and it would be much higher than its base, so that, it's not a weeble. If it wobbles, it will fall down. So what you do is you put side buildings on like this, and that's what holds it up. That's what he's telling you, okay? I'm not trying to go deep into this. I just need you to see what he's doing. The side chambers are verses 5 and 6. Those are the 2 things on the side. Verse 7, he tells you about preparing the stone, how the stone was prepared. Here's something exciting. When you go to Israel with me, those of you who go, I can show you the mason work of Solomon. It has now been uncovered and cleaned. So last year was the first year I was able to stand next to a wall and say, see this masonry? Solomon's guys did this. We have it. So it's cool because now we've got a good piece of it. We actually know that because the storage rooms had jars in them that belonged to the king that were crushed that had writing on them. So it's really very nice. At any rate, next to the temple, we don't have the temple's rooms, but we have the rooms just south of it that were built at the same time with the same masonry. Stone preparation is 7. Doors were verse 8. And it tells you what the doors were and how they were set. And verses 9 and 10 tell you how they framed out the building. Now, that is painful. You do not have a devotional based on the first 10 verses of chapter 6. May the Lord add his blessing to the reading of the building of the temple. Honestly, there's absolutely nothing spiritually you're going to do with this, but that's only a piece of the story. There is a spiritual lesson for the story that will wallop you. I want you to skip verses 11 to 14, but mark next to it God's message to Solomon. When you're studying Scripture, it's not that every verse touches you deeply. You know, Judas went out and hanged himself probably is not going to be a meaningful verse in your life. If it is, you have problems, see a psychologist. But the point is that even though not every verse will, the story has a spiritual punch in it. Guys, we're getting to the point in the year when you need to be able to pick it out. When you read through these long passages that look like shopping lists, ask yourself, where's the lesson here? And keep reading until you see it, okay? I want to skip 11 to 14 and go to 15 to 38, and I'm coming back to 11 to 14. In 15 to 38, you want to put next to 15 to 38 the detail of the completion of the temple. This is the detail of completion. This is 15 to 38. Now, you don't need to include a bunch of notes about this unless you think that, 10 years from now when you open up your Bible, you won't remember it. But I'll give you some words to hang the rest of this on. In 15, I would underline the word walls, floor, and ceiling. So that when you're reading later, you go, I wonder what this verse is about. Walls, floor, ceiling. Okay? And in verse 16, there is a liner. The word liner isn't there, so you might want to write the word liner that was made from what? Underline the word cedar. How many of you know what a cedar-lined chest smells like? Okay. The temple smelled like a cedar-lined building. You are in a lined building right now. The block is the outside wall. This isn't the block. There's an insulation, and then this is sheetrock on the inside. This is the liner. So what they did was they insulated and put wood on the inside of the masonry. So inside the temple, it looked like the inside of a cedar box. Okay? And that's what he's telling you. In verse 17, he goes into the holy place and says that there was in the front an inner sanctuary. I want you to write the words holy place next to that because it's not obvious. He's talking about the holy place. That's the area where the table of showbread would be, the menorot, that's the plural of menorah, menorot, and the incense altar would be, okay? And then in verses 18 to 20, the detail of the work of the Holy of Holies. So in verses 18 and 19 and 20, notice that no stone was seen in 18. Underline in verse 19, Ark of the Covenant. That's where it goes, in the Holy of Holies. So if I was flying over top of this building, this would have this very nice entrance and have some big columns on either side and have these rooms that are extended out the side like this. And that's the elevation or the flat look. But if I look down from up here, what actually I'm seeing on the inside is 2 rooms. I'm seeing in the tabernacle, remember, there was a menorah, a lampstand. There was an incense altar here. And there was a table of showbread here with, I'll put some bread stacked up on there. And all of them had rods. What were the rods for? You got to carry the thing, right? Because it's a movable sanctuary. In Solomon's, we don't have the design. I want you to notice that God told them how to make the tabernacle in Exodus 25 through 40. We have a lot on the tabernacle. We don't have a single word from God on how to build this. In other words, all they have is what God originally told them in the tabernacle and the fact that it's a much bigger country now, so one table of showbread isn't enough, so we're going to need more. One lampstand isn't enough, because if you make the place bigger, you're not going to be able to see, so you end up with a whole bunch of these lampstands, and that's how they do it. However, God never told them to do that. He never actually gave them in the scriptures the way in which to do all this. Solomon wanted to do it. Solomon did it. It was right. He settled it, but God doesn't really instruct him the way you have the instructions in the tabernacle. We're clear on that? So here's what we have. What's inside here? If this is the holy place, inside here will be the ark. So we'll put our angels on there. Inside here will be the ark, and that will be the Holy of Holies, is the way we say it in English, and it just means most holy place, okay? Remember in Hebrew, when you repeat it, when you say holy holies, you're saying most holy, okay? Because you don't have comparatives in their language. All right, keep going. I know this is a little bit pedantic, but we're going somewhere. Hang in there with me. Get down to verses 21 to 22, gold coating. When you walked inside, you didn't see the cedar. The cedar was covered over with gold. So when you walked inside, the glistening of the gold walls, they were coated with gold. They glistened. Can you see that cloth over there that the manger scene is set on top of? That's what it would do. It would glisten. The gold would glisten from the lamplight. And as the lamps, when you open the door, what's going to happen to all the lamps? They're all going to blow. And then it's a glistening all around the room. It's almost a magical kind of look when you walk inside. And it's all gold covered. And that's in 21 and 22. Then in 23 to 28, there's some carved cruvim or cherubim. And so you have these big angels that are carved. And when you look up you're going to see them hovering above. And they have wings that are 15 feet across. Imagine somebody sculpting huge cherubim sculptures. So it's not true to say that the Hebrews didn't have any living creatures inside the temple. They did. They just didn't have ones from Earth. They had ones from World 1.0, not World 2.0. When you walked into the temple, you were supposed to walk into something that reminded you of the spiritual realities of the world, not something that was about the physical world. Okay, let me quickly blow past that. 29 to 36 is the details of the doors, the lintels, and the columns. And I get that because if you go down to 29, it'll say things about engravings. 30 will say things about floor. 31, entrance. 32, 2 doors. 33, doorposts. 34, 2 doors of cypress wood. So they're just telling you the physical features of the building. And you get all the way down to 37 and 38, and we go back to what we had in verse 1, timing. This is the timing of the completion. 6:1 was timing of the start. 6:37 and 38 is timing of the completion. Why is the timing of the completion of the temple going to be important? If you were a priest, you began your calendar there. This was the 3rd year after the temple began, the 4th year after the temple began. This was such a huge thing in Hebrew life, it dated the calendars for the priests. And remember that there were courses of priests, 23 courses of priests that were divided up with the responsibility through the year and showed up 5 times a year. 23. They went through the list of 23, then through the list of 23. That's 46. But then there were other high holy days in Deuteronomy 16:16 where all hands were on deck. And so 5 times a year, priests would come up and serve according to the rotation. You know this because some of you just heard the Christmas story. Zacharias and Elizabeth. He showed up at the temple. What's he doing there? He's burning incense and he's a priest. How did he get the job? You don't remember this? The lot falls on him. They cast lots for the jobs. But what the truth is, he's there because he's of the course of Abijah or Avia. Means he's one of the 23 courses of priests. What I'm trying to get you to see here is that the timing is what started the whole thing, and that's how their calendar dating was. So 6 gives you not only the temple and its building and its design, but it also gives you actually the calendar and the central thing to a Jew.